Hello, my name is Kylie Patton, and for this speech I chose nonverbal communication in the Spanish culture. Did you know that spoken communication is only 7 to 35% of our communication? The majority is used through nonverbal communication. We must respect those whose cultures are different from ours. First thing we should do is learn what is considered impolite in that culture. The second is using wordless messages to communicate with them. The third is nonverbal emotional cues to look for when communicating with them. There is a lot about the Spanish culture that I don't know, but I have done research, and I also have a cousin who lived in Chihuahua, Mexico for 5 years as a missionary. While she lived there, she also taught the Spanish speaking people who lived there how to speak English. She would teach in the church. She'd have her own classroom where she taught them English, and in turn they taught her Spanish. So now she is fluent in both English and Spanish. It is good to have someone you know who experienced life in Mexico, because then you get a first-hand experience of what happened while she lived there, someone who lived through it. It is very important to learn about the Spanish culture because there are many amongst us who are from Mexico and do speak mainly Spanish. And that today this number is drastically rising. The first thing I'm going to talk about is using wordless messages. If you do not speak Spanish, you can still communicate with them through body language, facial expressions. The use of nonverbal communication varies from culture to culture. If you are not familiar with it, it can be very easy to misinterpret what the locals' nonverbal signs are saying, and this in turn can cause embarrassing moments or things to offend others. Another thing is the nonverbal emotional cues you should look for. Some nonverbal emotional cues to look for are things such as facial expressions, hand and body movements, physical touch, voice pitch, physical appearance, and emotional appearance. Latinos are known for their use of sound and facial expressions. They think that moving your hands is very important in communicating effectively. I am one of those people who talk with their hands because I believe it helps get my point across. So in turn, I can relate to them in that fact. Also, learn what is considered impolite in the culture. This is very important to read up on before you communicate in the Spanish culture. Many Americans are used to saying the word stupid and not really meaning anything mean or hateful by it. But in the Spanish culture, the word stupid is very offensive. So when communicating in Spanish, you should really try to avoid speaking or saying the word stupid. Another common thing us Americans do is tossing something to someone. If somebody says, "Could you please toss me a pencil?" we toss them a pencil. But in the Spanish culture, it is found to be very offensive and impolite to toss somebody something. In the Spanish culture, they believe you should walk over and hand the thing to that person. All through this speech, you have learned that the use of nonverbal communication varies from culture to culture. The Spanish culture has many nonverbal cues that they rely on to communicate with each other, as well as others from different cultures. Also, it is important to learn the things that are considered impolite in the culture so that you do not offend anyone while communicating with them. You want to be able to communicate smoothly with them, as in not to cause friction between you guys. Understanding the Spanish cultures can help you better understand their people. If you want to understand the culture better, learn their native language. This way you guys can communicate and have conversations about the Spanish culture and other things, and this way you get a first-hand experience of their culture. Thank you very much for listening to my speech. Thank you very much for listening to my speech on nonverbal communications in the Spanish culture.